FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. It's Kerry, Lutz, and the date, we're almost to the end of September, 9/29/15. So much going on. The deflation, inflation debate is heating up. We've got Glenmore, large commodity corporation that's literally on the balls of their feet. Could be $50 billion worth of derivatives going down the rat hole, maybe even more. That's all we know about. But got a lot to talk about, and we got Jason Hartman here to speak to us about it, and also make sure you stay tuned for a special offer, give you a chance to get to Florida when it starts getting cold. And Jason, how are you?
Hey, Kerry, good to be here. Gosh, there's a lot of interesting stuff going on in the financial world right now, and I think it's the old Chinese saying that says, may you live in interesting times.
That is, may you live in insane times, because things are getting crazier and crazier. And, the last financial crisis solved absolutely nothing, just made all the same mistakes over and over again.
Well, it's literally just kicking the can down the road is what it was. We never want to take our medicine in this country.
In this world. In the world.
This world. Yeah, that's true.
You got Deutsche Bank could blow up any minute, according to some people. They've obviously had some serious problems in that bank. And then this Glenmore fiasco, and Brasco, the Brazilian oil company, is about to blow up. And, there's just so many pressure points here. What's the Fed going to do next when things start blowing up? Are they going to print out $50 trillion? They only printed out $60 trillion last time, Jason. So they're going to print $50 trillion, $100 trillion, whatever it takes to close up the holes.
I don't know. It's everybody keeps waiting for another shoe to drop, and maybe this is the warning that shoe is starting to drop. It really, all of this ties in with the age-old debate of inflation versus deflation. And my investment strategy in inflation is just a home run. It's a massive home run, owning income properties, because you take advantage of inflation-induced debt destruction, where your mortgages, all that debt on the properties, which, real estate is the most debt-friendly asset in the country. And I'm saying debt in a good way, in the way that, it should be your favorite 4-letter word type of way, right? And, the inflation basically pays off that debt for you. Inflation enriches borrowers and impoverishes lenders, okay? So that's one part of it. But then there's the stagnation possibility, and then there is the deflation possibility. And it's a race between absolutely disgusting fiscal and monetary policy, which your listeners are all too familiar with, I'm sure, on the part of creating money out of thin air. When you hear about the industrialized countries meeting and having some big summit, okay, whether it be at Davos or wherever they're meeting,
where's
right?
That coming from?
Yeah. All they're doing is talking about how much money should we create out of thin air. That's really their only tool, and it's virtually unlimited. But it's a race between bad fiscal and monetary policy and the deflationary effects of technology. So, which one will rule the day? I don't know. Nobody knows. It's really hard to tell. What are your thoughts, and what do you think about what's going on with the commodities scandal, the latest one?
The latest one? I can't keep track of them all. There's been so many, but hey, it's what you come to expect in the Ponzi economy here, Jason. Let's face it, the term accountability seems to have no meaning whatsoever. And, the bigger the fraud, the bigger the rewards, it seems. There's just nothing out there to discourage bad behavior among the financial elite. How do you stop it? I don't think just letting these guys get their bonuses and getting more stock options is the way to do it. But until there's real accountability and until there's a fear of consequences, I think the system will continue to run amok.
So what do you think will happen? Just what's the Kerry Lutz prediction?
I think really, we will have massive inflation followed by massive deflation because
now some say the opposite. They say we'll have a little bout of deflation and then we'll have a lot of inflation, maybe hyperinflation, although that doesn't have an academic or technical definition to it. But you think the other way, huh?
Yeah, I think so, because I think look, every country in the world is printing money in one form or another. And it's not going to bring us back to prosperity, but it will have an effect on prices. That is for sure at some point. I don't know when. I'm not the expert in picking times and dates, but I do know that hey, you abuse the monetary system enough, bad things are bound to happen. And unless there are major bank collapses that lead to major loan collapses, meaning that all of this paper on the books becomes worthless, we're not going to have that deflation. But after we have I won't call it hyperinflation, but I would say substantial inflation, then afterwards, the deflation will kick in. And
so what will that be attributed to? Will it be attributed to the deflationary effects of technology, or will it just be because of the derivative bubble and all of the financial shenanigans, the house of cards that the whole world has been living under for decades? I mean, it's mind-boggling that this whole thing has just become this like super symbolic economy, right? And what I mean by that is that if you look at the last financial crisis, and there were really 2 points into that. First, there was the mortgage meltdown, the subprime fiasco, and then there was all of the Wall Street shenanigans that were discovered after that. The selling loans 33 different times, the pools of fake mortgages, all of the new acronyms we learned, that nobody had ever heard of, credit default swaps, and all of these, financial innovations, right? Yeah. If you look at all of that, really, what you see there is you see this super symbolic economy. And how do we know that? What proof do we have of that? And here's what I would propose to your listeners. The day after those crises unfold, crisis number 1 unfolded, mortgage meltdown. Crisis number 2 unfolded, Wall Street fiascos, okay? And after all of that, the amount of real value in the world did not change. There was the same amount of gold, the same amount of silver, the same amount of land, the same amount of oil, the same amount of production capacity, the same number of homes, apartment buildings, office buildings in the world the day after, okay? So all of this stuff is just super symbolic. It's like a symbol of a symbol of a symbol, and that's really what derivatives are. I always try to make up some folksy, really simple way to understand something. And so I call derivatives, get this one, you ready? You're going to love this. This is what a kid would say, right? A derivative is, it's the thing about the thing.
Yeah.
But it's worse than that now, because now we have so many layers. So, we have to peel back that onion so many times to get to the thing. It's the thing about 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 the thing nowadays.
Yeah.
Right? But when you peel it all back, there's the thing there. And if there is a derivatives bubble and collapse, which, hey, there may well be, the thing will still be there.
Yeah, well, but it's not to say that just because this stuff is imaginary, that it doesn't have consequences.
Sure.
Look at the banks might be dealing in imaginary securities, symbolic securities. That's what a derivative is. It derives its value from something else that's hopefully real, or in this case, unreal. But, the banks employ a lot of people and the system is overly financialized. We've heard that from many people before. So there will be consequences, even though all of this stuff is, as you say, imaginary. It's only imaginary to us, but the people involved in it believe that it's very real. And when you have problems at your ATM getting money out because all the imaginary stuff blew up, it'll be very real to you too, won't it?
Right. No question about it. So then what happens when we have a crisis is that the super symbols move around. And then maybe ultimately at some point, the actual thing, the actual asset moves around. But certainly the symbols move around. And that's the money, the dollars. Well, it's not money, it's the currency, I should say. But the dollars attached to the thing or the euros or whatever fiat currency you want to pick. And so those definitely change hands. And that's why it is an incumbent on every listener to your show, to my shows, to get themselves in a position where they are ready if the other shoe does drop. Okay, which, it may well. I mean, we may be on the verge of another crisis. But as I always say, technology could save us all. I really believe that. And people may think, well, you're just being Pollyanna, right? But we are at least seemingly, and I don't know, maybe throughout history they've thought this, when the light bulb was invented, when the steam engine was invented, the cotton gin, whatever, right? Yeah. But, it seems like we have so much incredible advancement coalescing to just make life better and transform life around the planet to create this life of potentially this life of massive abundance. Remember all of those apocalyptic movies? A lot of them happened in the 70s, when we had, possibly the worst president until Obama, which was Carter. Mm-hmm. Good man, but terrible president, not a good leader. We had movies like Soylent Green and, all of these movies showing these like apocalyptic scenarios, but they didn't happen because technology stepped in to save the day over and over again. And, all of this, green trees have red roots, I believe, the environmental movement, which is just a sham largely for instituting government intervention and regulation and ultimately socio-communist type policies around the world, and also to institute maybe a one world government or move us toward that. All of these, whether it be UN Agenda 21 or whatever, I've done some shows on that, and it's pretty interesting. Sure. For sure, you know about that. Your listeners can find that possibly on your shows and certainly on mine. And all of these things just give the government more power. They use the environment as a way to get there, but it's simply just it's just a gambit.
Oh, we know that. Well, I believe in technology, but I do also believe in man's ability to screw up anything. And it's not to say I'm pessimistic about this, because I believe that once the system gets flushed out, there potentially is really the greatest period of human development ahead of us. But these people, the powers that be, are fighting it off, kicking and screaming. And the systems that are in place, so many of them, particularly political systems, are they've just stopped functioning or barely functional. And, it's just time to do something else. And I'm not sure that there's a way to avoid this. In the long run, because it's got to be. It's just like, there's too much debt. So what do? You issue more debt to solve a debt problem. It's inherently...
But Kerry, didn't you know the way to put out a fire is to throw gasoline on it? I mean, silly.
Well, you might burn down everything around you, but eventually the fire will go out. It'll burn itself out, right?
Right. But see, when we get back to that inflation-deflation debate, the deflationists, they say silly things like, well, the Federal Reserve and the government can't create enough money. They can't print enough money to offset the deflation that is in the system. And how is that possible? That statement is just silly. They can create an unlimited amount of money. There's no limit to what they can do.
At this point, they can, but in theory, is if all the loans are collapsing faster than they can hand out the money, then you're going to have deflation. And I think what they're doing is, look what they're doing in Japan. They've been doing this quantitative easing now for over 2 decades.
Well, Japan is not the U.S., though, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, but it's the 3rd largest economy in the world. And
it used to be the second.
Do it. Yeah, it used to be the second.
Right, but they don't have the reserve currency. That's the difference. That's the difference. And so then, people can always argue, well, the U.S. is never going to keep the reserve currency status. And I just think that's not with the kind of military the U.S. has. They're going to keep it. No.
It's not just the military. It's the development of the markets.
Right.
When you've got
maturity of the markets,
if you have $10 billion to park for the weekend, are you going to put it in the yuan or the pound sterling or the euro, or are you going to put it in the dollar? And the answer, quite simply, is you're going to put it in the dollar, regardless what you think of the long-term possibilities for the dollar. For right
all
now,
of modern history, the U.S. has been the Brinks truck. So will that continue? I think it's pretty likely, actually.
For the foreseeable future, but at some point, the world's going to say enough, because the reserve currency allows you to take a lot more than you contribute, if you will, to the pie of the world.
Well, and it allows you to impoverish other countries more than your own.
Yeah.
You can basically export your inflation. I mean, this is not fair at all. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really not fair.
Fed up with it, but they have no choices now.
Well, they have no choice. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but at some point there will be a choice, and at some point it's going to change. But as to when, I can't say. But that's where the collapse comes in. Are we heading for the next collapse? It surely is echoes of 2008. But as Mark Twain said, history doesn't repeat, it rhymes. We're rhyming pretty heavily right now.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think? Why do you think someday the world will have a choice to refuse this reserve currency scenario? What do you think will cause that choice? What will happen that shifts the game? I don't see it. I mean, I think the U.S. can continue this game for decades to come.
I don't think so. The Chinese emerging, although they're collapsing faster than anyone right now.
China's not. I wouldn't put my money on China. Let me tell you.
But there is a desire in the world for an alternative. And where there's a desire, eventually the desire is going to be met. How it's going to happen, whether it's competing private currencies, I have no idea. But eventually an alternative to the dollar's primacy will emerge and will at least be partially embraced by the world. When, I don't know, but I'd say within 10 years or so, something will have to come up, because a lot of the instability in the world is due to the dollar. Like you say, we export our inflation and we import deflation, and look, China cutting the yuan, so you can forget it. Things are definitely happening. Anyway, Jason, we got to get going, but we have a special offer. Tell us what you've got for the FSN community out there.
Okay, so we've done a couple of special offers with your community, and this one's going to be really good. So we are having a live event, an educational event, Creating Wealth in Today's Economy boot camp and property tour combined into one weekend in Orlando, Florida. Okay. And this is a market. We have never done a tour in this market before. It's easy to get to. It's the perfect time of year to be coming there. It'll be the middle of November. And this is just going to be ideal. Now, Kerry, you've offered so graciously to come and MC the event, which I totally appreciate. So all of your listeners can meet you there. And I think you've got some books for them, right?
Yeah. We will have our book, Forget Wall Street, Go for the Gold and Silver 2. And who knows, it might be more timely in a month. What are the dates of the event?
Okay, so we are looking at November. So let me see. That'll be November 14th and 15th. It's a Saturday and a Sunday. It's a weekend. So you want to arrive on the 14th if you're coming from out of town. We've had people come from all over the world to these events of ours. We don't do them that often on the East Coast. I live in La Jolla, California. So, most of our stuff is on the West Coast. But if you're in Europe listening listening to this, if you're in the East, if you're wherever, or in the eastern part of the U.S., this will be an ideal event for you. And just go to jasonhartman.com/Lutz, Lutz, Kerry's last name, jasonhartman.com/Lutz. And we're going to have a great promotion for you. We're going to give away a few free tickets and then some heavily discounted tickets. So jasonhartman.com/Lutz, Lutz.
All right. And of course, we'll have a link to it, and it's really exciting. I can't wait to go out there and see those properties, because Florida, unlike most of the country, is really booming right now. In multiple locations.
There's a big reason for that. Florida is a judicial foreclosure state. Mm-hmm. And so their recovery is slower than others. So you know, in many markets around the country, you've missed it. Okay.
Yeah,
the appreciation's already happened. Yeah. You can't go into Phoenix now and really get any great deals. Okay. Because that market cleared, they had price discovery, and investors have gone in, hedge funds have gone in, private equity groups have gone in, and they've made their money. And, there's a little bit of opportunity there, but it's nothing like it is in this market. Okay. But we had to wait for it to recover to a point where it really made sense to enter that market. And I think now is a very good time. So we look forward to seeing you in Orlando mid-November. It's going to be awesome. And Kerry, thank you for graciously offering to come and MC the event.
Absolutely.
And give out some books and press the flesh with your listeners and shake hands and kiss babies. So
well, that's where I draw the line. But
no kissing babies, huh? Okay.
Nah, they could have germs, but no.
You're not a politician, I guess. Yeah.
I raised 3 of my own. I'm not worried about that. But it's going to be great to be out there. And Florida, judicial state, also rising population, third most populous state in the nation now. Recently surpassed New York. Low tax state, no state income taxes. There's a small
good asset protection.
Oh, the best in the country by far. And I could do a whole dissertation on that. So if you're worried about creditors, come to Florida. They can never take your house. 100% homestead exemption. The only
that's why OJ went there after the civil suit with Daniel Petruccelli.
You got it. And they can only get your house if you default on your mortgage, your HOA, or your property taxes, and certain vendor or mechanics liens. Otherwise, no other general creditor can take your property. Theoretically, the IRS can, but they don't do it very often, except in cases of major frauds. So there's a lot of pluses to the state. I mean, there's a lot of negatives too, I won't get into, but for real estate, prices still depressed, like you said, but recovering nicely, great opportunities in the Orlando market. And it's a great employer base there too, with the theme parks, and it keeps expanding. But anyway, I don't want to extol the virtues of Florida anymore. Just I appreciate the opportunity to participate, Jason, and the opportunity for all of you out there to attend. And I'm really looking forward to meeting a lot of you. I know a number of you have gone to jasonhartman.com and actually bought homes from through Jason's network.
Yeah. And these are, when you say homes, these are income properties nationwide. That's what we do. We help people build nationwide diversified investment property portfolios. So single family homes, apartment buildings, great stuff. We've been I've been doing this exclusively for over 11 years now, and I used to be in traditional real estate. It's just I love it. It's my passion. I got to save people from Wall Street. So that's what we're going to help you do. Okay?
And I met hundreds of them at your Meet the Masters in San Diego last year. I mean, they were like screaming, raving, lunatic fans. Yeah. And
we do have our groupies.
Yeah. hey, we need them. So anyway, if you can, join us. Go over to jasonhartman.com/Lutz. Sign up for that offer, and let's go for it. Okay, Jason, I will see you in Orlando.
All right, looking forward to it. Kerry, one more thing for your listeners. Check out my podcast, The Creating Wealth Show. It's on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, or at jasonhartman.com/podcast, and check that out. And we will look forward to seeing as many of your listeners as possible in Orlando mid-November. Okay, jasonhartman.com/Lutz. Thanks, Kerry.
All right, Jason. Talk to you again soon. Be well.
Happy investing, everybody.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.